A couple of weeks ago, I had the pleasure of sitting down and chatting with Tim Harris, the Vice President of Vail's Midwest region. We discussed several topics ranging from how they plan to course correct after such a tough season in the Midwest to why the beaver may be the best animal at skiing. Yeah, seriously. It's an excellent conversation with plenty of insights, especially for those that ski at or near Vail's Midwestern ski areas. If you want to jump around some of the topics in the video, I added some timestamps below, but without further ado, let's jump right into this one. Tim, thank you so much for being here and taking the time to chat with me.
Yeah, thanks, Matthew. Good to see you.
So, before we dive into the nitty gritty, let's just start with your background, because you have a pretty interesting background. How'd you get into the sport of skiing and eventually find your way into your current position?
Thanks for the question. So I'm originally from Canada, and I learned to ski at a place called Camp Fortune right outside Ottawa. And then as a kid, I skied and snowboarded at a small resort called Chicopee in Kitchener, Ontario. I always think about the people at Chicopee would always talk about a turn there is the same as a turn out west, just more chair rides in between. The hill had 200 feet of vertical. Yeah, I did school clubs there, and yeah, definitely my home hill. My family still lives there, and I see it every time I go visit. So yeah, after university, I moved out to Whistler as a rental technician, and then over 11 years, I moved into bigger and bigger roles at the resort. And then yeah, about a year after Whistler Blackcomb was acquired by Vail Resorts, I got an opportunity to move down to Colorado with my family. And since then, I've held different roles across the West, and then sort of returned back to kind of my Midwest roots in terms of Canadian Midwest. In June 2021. So yeah, really familiar with these types of hills.
Yeah, 200 vertical. That's like a pretty average, size around here. So that's pretty cool that you have that background. I think, when I see Whistler Blackcomb on the resume, if you will, it was like my mind did not go to that. So that's really cool to know that you have some experience with these smaller hills, right?
Very much.
Obviously, coming from Canada, coming from Whistler Blackcomb, what did you find the most surprising about this region, this small Midwest region? You guys have, I believe, 10 resorts across the Midwest region, what I define as the Midwest region. What did you find so surprising or different about what we do here?
So it was actually immediately really familiar, particularly like the passion and culture of these resorts. They're so similar to where I grew up skiing and fell in love with the sport. They all have a lot of tradition and history. And I think sometimes that can get overlooked, especially by folks in the West with some of the bigger, more prestigious hills. But they have an incredible connection to their community. I know that all too well, riding the school bus there on Thursday afternoons after school. And these places are where people like me fall in love with skiing and riding. I mean, I wouldn't be where I was if I didn't have that experience. The other thing is just kind of reminding, myself that they're close to huge population centers, and new and existing skiers and riders can come enjoy the sport kind of without having to plan some huge vacation. And it was a nice reminder to find my way back to that. So
yeah, I mean, you hit it right on the head. Like that's what we preach and what we've been doing is, that just access, right? Like we don't have to go to the mountains. They're kind of built into our city, which is pretty cool. You have a couple of resorts, which we're going to talk a little bit more about, that are pretty basically in cities, Afton, yep. You have Brighton, you have even Wilmot to some degree, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. But in your eyes, I mean, you kind of touched on it already, but what role do your 10 Midwestern resorts play in the big picture of Vail? I mean, they're pretty small if you're just to look at the dollars and cents side of things and the business side. But what do you think, how do they play in your guys' big picture?
Well, I mean, they're a huge part of the future of the sport. I think we all intuitively know that, and like, how many people do you know of that are from somewhere in Wisconsin that you run into at the bottom of a lift in Breckenridge? There's a passion there, and I think you can't overlook that. Our Midwest resorts absolutely exude that passion. Yeah, I mentioned we're close to like large urban centers. So you keep a lot of folks engaged in the sport, right? And we're also like, if you're going to think about growing the sport, this is where people find their way into it. I mentioned myself, right? They help people find a career path into the industry. They learn in the Midwest. They may stay in the Midwest. They may go somewhere west or overseas to work in a resort. That's not uncommon. Sometimes they make their way back. And then we have like rock stars. You mentioned Ron Morrison in one of your previous videos. So like Ron started at Boston Mills and Brandywine in 1981. One of our new chairs is going to be named after him. And he's a great example of the like technical expertise and knowledge that forms the foundation of our local teams. And without our Midwest resorts, we wouldn't have that. So definitely that. And then, like I said, mentioned before, Midwest resorts fuel the passion for the sport. You don't just go decide to ski at Vail. You probably start in the Midwest first.
So let's briefly talk about this past season. Very challenging, not only for you guys, but pretty much for the industry as a whole. It was a very interesting year, to say the least. But you guys had quite a challenge, specifically in the Midwest market. Now, I'm not going to spend a ton of time here. I think we all know, what happened. But what did you guys learn from this past season, and what are you going to take away from this past year?
I appreciate the question. It's straightforward. Last season did not meet our expectations, didn't meet our guests' expectations. Yeah, and it's something we care deeply about. Our experience for our employees and guests is incredibly important to us. And we're constantly listening and constantly learning to find ways to be better. And thinking about like, what did we learn? Like there's three things that we're focused on for this year. Number one, like we're putting our teams first. The employee experience matters. We can't do what we need to do without our employees. And so examples like our $20 minimum wage and our expanded benefits that we announced, yeah, that's about putting our teams first. Number two, really comes down to like a focus on elevating the guest experience. We're putting in 2 new lifts. We're enhancing infrastructure in Ohio as a good example of that. Like we're prioritizing on the guest experience, knowing that, yeah, last year we didn't meet that. And then number three, we're championing the sport. We have a side of us that we believe that growth is absolutely important to the growth of the ski industry. And to that end, we do things like partnering with the Boys and Girls Club in Northeast Ohio to have youth that couldn't necessarily experience the sport to come out, and we get them on skis and snowboards and show them what we're all about. So that's kind of how I think about it and all the things that we're really focused on for this year.
Have you seen any sort of indication of that $20 an hour, those changes? Have you seen any indication of how that's going to play out, or have you seen an uptick in applications or hires or things like that? Do you have any projections on how that's going to actually play out this season?
Yeah, we track all of that. You mentioned applications, hires, all of that. Yeah, we're in a much better spot than we were last year. And all indications are that we'll be fully staffed for this winter, which
awesome.
Like super pleased about.
How else are you preparing to ensure like a smooth operation for this upcoming season?
You'll see some like refreshed lodges, some revamped rental areas, little things. Like there's always things that people can't see. Like when we go and install brand new snowmaking hydrants and replacing pipe and, all the stuff that goes into the back end of it that, you'd never know, right? It's underground or it's behind walls or doors. So we're really focused on that. And then, yeah, our number one priority really is our hiring. We have to really focus on getting staffed because we know that last year, yeah, that was our biggest challenge. And we need to execute on our promise to our guests, and we're going to get fully staffed.
Recently, Vail's Midwest Resorts announced their opening dates and times and operational times as well. Huge improvement from last year. I mean, just right off the bat, increased hours. Obviously, the opening dates are always out there. They're tentative, but look pretty on spot with what we've seen in the past. However, I know that there's going to be still, and I still get texts from local buddies back from Ohio. They're having a little bit of a trust issue right now, right? We went through a season that a lot of people felt like they lost trust in the product, right? They lost trust in what they were buying. And coming into the season, we still, Epic passes are still for sale. You can still buy those. What would you say to somebody that maybe is on the fence, maybe lost a little bit of that trust? What would you say to them to kind of win them back, or say like, hey, we're going to take care of that?
Number one, I'd say like, I get it. I understand. Yeah, last year our hours were really limited. And I can't say anything other than that. Like I mentioned before, I wasn't happy with it. None of us were happy with how we showed up in our operations last year. We had to operate that way because we didn't have people. And it wasn't easy. When we think about like our hours and our dates, like in our industry, as you well know, there's only so much you can control weather isn't one of those things. And as much as I'd love it, if I did, that'd be a different conversation. So yeah, these dates, our opening dates, the other targets, snowmaking and sort of, weather conditions around snowmaking is going to allow us to open or not. And so we approach this by saying like, we need a target to hit, if we don't put out anything, everyone's going to wonder like, what are we doing? So we put these out and then people wonder if we can actually get there. So I'm just reinforcing, yeah, they're absolutely targets. The best thing to think about, and I'll say it right now, is like, we want to be open as soon as possible. The one thing we can control is that we can make our resorts a great place to work. And I mentioned wages and benefits. they're going to get us to the goal, and indications are looking really good. Of course, anything can happen. We all know how that goes when all of a sudden it's warm and rainy for way too long. But at this point, I feel confident in our staffing that'll allow us to get to operate the hours that we have posted.
Yep.
Yeah, and those operating dates are our targets.
Additionally, this season, you guys announced that you're going to be implementing a day ticket limit. How is this going to benefit skiers and snowboarders at your Midwest areas?
Number one, it's going to help us prioritize the resort experience. Our business is focused on our pass. That's not a secret. So what this does is that it allows us on peak days to ensure a great experience at the resort. And pass holders will always have access. Having said that, operating longer days as we do in the Midwest, along with kind of the size and scale of our resorts, I really think the impact on guests will be minimal. People in the Midwest, they like to pick and choose their days based on availability on their schedule, right? It's not like you mentioned before, you're not deciding months in advance necessarily that you're going skiing. It's probably days or even day of. So I think, like, when I think about that, I don't expect to sell it often, but it just encourage people that, yeah, you want to check our website and book ahead for your lift tickets. One really quick thing. This is kind of like, it's not a sales pitch, but something that's really important. I just want to talk about the Epic Day Pass. So we launched it this year, and the best example, and I'm sorry, I'm Canadian, so I'm going to use it. If you're a hockey family,
Sure.
and you only ski or ride a couple days a year, it's really going to be the best because you get up to 65% off, a lift ticket price. It's good for customizable a number of days, up to 7 days, and then you get the best price, and you have to book it online. But you're not locked into a big ticket pass or anything like that, and it's much more flexible, and then that guarantees your access. So I think there's a little bit of confusion around it, and I just want to set that straight, that we still offer that low price alternative for folks that need to be flexible.
And you don't have to set a certain date that you can use that, right? You can buy that, and then you can basically use that whenever you want throughout the season, right? Correct?
Absolutely. Yeah. You're not having to pick a day and then guarantee it. It's 100% flexible. Once you have that, it essentially says that you have purchased 5 days that you can use through the season, and then you pick those days as your schedule is open.
I mean, there's no doubt. I mean, you'd have to be silly to think that the Epic Pass is not a great value. I mean, it's absolutely one of the best values. One fixed price, you can go ski almost basically anywhere in the world. You guys have places all over the place now. But I will say the Midwest loves their day ticketers, and you know this. I know this. The Midwest still sells about 54% of its product to daily lift tickets, and that's compared to the national average of just 37%. So obviously, it's a little bit of a different market. How are you ensuring that those day ticketers are not going to be alienated by either pricing them out or limiting their sales?
Important to note, we still offer tickets every day. And until a day is sold out, then they're still available. And it sounds very straightforward, but I just want to make sure that, everyone remembers that. And I really don't expect a lot of days to sell out. We all know those peak days, like going to the airport. If you're flying the day before Christmas, it's probably going to be busy. We have those peak days too. I think if people are looking to purchase tickets, they're available. Just encourage everybody to look on the website and book ahead if they can. If they can't, they should check the website to make sure they are available. Yeah, and then I'm not going to shy away. Our business model is about rewarding guests for purchasing upfront. Booking in advance. That is what we're doing. I'm not hiding that. And we're focused on our pass. So, that's where I'll go back. I mentioned the Epic Day Pass. It really is the best option for the best price. The booking in advance is the thing that we're asking people to do.
Okay, but is there anything else that you want to talk about or add about these operational changes that we're expecting heading into this next season?
Yeah, I kind of mentioned on some of the refresh stuff that we do, behind the scenes things, snowmaking improvements, etc. I think the other really exciting one is, last 2 years has been interesting to operate with COVID restrictions and policies, and we don't have any of those anymore. You have access to our restaurants, and it's allowing us to really focus on a feeling of fun at our resorts. So bringing back live music, bringing back events that people are accustomed to seeing, and then continuing events like slush cups and pond skims and some of the stuff back to the tradition and the history at some of these resorts that we haven't done. Really looking forward to a lot of that. I travel a lot, and I love going to these places, and I'm looking forward to being a part of this stuff. The amount of stuff we've talked about around how can we bring fun back, and really bring that energy back is a big focus for the team.
We have some new lifts going in at Boston Mills Brandywine. We kind of talked about that earlier, which I think are getting close to finish. At least the Boston Mills one looks like the towers are up, right?
Yeah, both lifts now have towers up. Yeah, you can check the webcams out and see.
But what other notable improvements are going on across the Midwest? Talked about a little bit about snowmaking, some of the non-sexy stuff. Tell me, I want to know. Like, that's the stuff I get excited about, you know?
We relaid out the rental room at Boston Mills, and buying, new racking and getting organized and, taking walls down and really spending time on getting the rental shop flow for guests much improved. If you remember it before, it was pretty tight,
Not good.
and
Yeah.
yeah, so like stuff like that. Something else I'm really excited about, and this is just a neat little kind of welcoming feature, but at Hidden Valley, it's their 40th anniversary.
Okay.
And they have an original DMC cat that was in use up until a couple of years ago. We cleaned it up, and it's out of commission. It was just sitting in the boneyard. So we pulled it out, and we created a little spot at the front where we kind of have a little kind of homage to the cat and the resort, and that's now out front. It's just really cool. It's actually a cool photo opportunity because it's this awesome looking machine. So like little
That's
things
super
like
cool.
that. Yeah, we're focusing on that, and like other things like in Wilmot, Paintbrush does wonderful things, and all the buildings were painted different colors. So we went and we're finding the same color theme to make sure that the resort has a consistency of feel, and so we've painted it. We called it Project Heartland to give it a fun name, and all the buildings are red with white trim, just like the barns in the area, and like we're trying to find those little things that you can really get after to really kind of make it feel more like the Midwest and give it a sense of place. So,
Looking even further ahead, obviously we had a couple big lift installs this year. I'm sure there's a lot that we can't discuss on camera here, but can you give us any idea of what kind of improvements are coming down the line from Vail? Vail's definitely not shy to spend some money, so I'm kind of curious if you can even just hint at us, like what can we expect in the next few years?
So Matthew, I'm sorry, I got to let you down. We're always looking at the future, and we're always planning for the next projects. I'm serious when we say like we're serious about championing the future of the ski industry, and then the Midwest plays a role in that. But that's really all I can say.
Fair enough. I figured I wasn't going to get much on that one, but you never know. Another question that I often get from viewers, like all the time, this is super common. Will Vail be closing my hill? And I hear this all the time. There's concerned it's maybe a smaller hill, probably doesn't do as much revenue as a lot of other hills in Vail's portfolio. Should they be concerned about these smaller hills being closed off or sold?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. And what I can say is, I mentioned like our Midwest resorts were close to large, urban populations. And, we are serious in that we believe that growth is needed to champion the future of our sport. Visitation in the ski industry is not awesome, and it's been flat or declining for years. And when you look at where the Midwest resorts are positioned, yeah, we're in a great spot to provide access to new users, whether they're skiers or riders. We partner with nonprofits to try and grow visitation to the sport. Things like Girls Incorporated in Chicago is another group that we partner with to get, youth out to try it. And we're in the business of operating resorts, not selling them. So yeah, when we say that, we're focused on growing the sport. And so the Midwest resorts play a great role in that.
So you should feel comfortable if you're at, Hidden Valley or Snow Creek or Paley Peaks as a pass holder, as a community, you should feel comfortable moving forward with Vail at the helm.
Yeah, like you said, we're in the business of operating resorts, not selling resorts.
Another question that I get all the time is how much control do the GMs have at their individual resorts? For example, are they able to make the decision on when they can make snow, or is that something that comes from a higher level, like something from maybe your side of the desk, or how much control do they have? Can you obviously you can't paint the entire picture, but maybe just give my viewers a little bit of understanding of where the GM falls in that, what they can accomplish in their role.
I've heard that too, and I can set it straight. Yeah, local teams make the decisions on when and how to make snow. The way we approach this is like every single resort in the portfolio is unique, and we expect that sort of unique trait of each resort to stay, very present and true. And that means that our local leaders have to make decisions on the resort operations. Mm-hmm. They know the nuance of the resort better than anybody, so that, yeah, they make the decisions. They have control. They know, and we trust in them to run their operation. And that's how it has to work. So yeah, definitely I do not make the call on when to make snow.
So you're not getting calls at like 3 a.m. like, hey, can we make snow now?
No, my wife would not appreciate that.
With the ski season just a few months away, is there anything else that you would like to add about this upcoming season at Vail's Midwestern Resorts?
Honestly, like a shout out to the teams that have been on the ground all summer, getting ready to go, digging holes, putting up fences, painting walls, taking walls down, all of that stuff. I think, there'll be stuff that people can see, like we mentioned. There's stuff that people will never see, and it's the teams on the ground that make this happy, that make it happen. I'm privileged to work with the group that I get to work with. I love working in the Midwest, and without the teams on the ground, it just wouldn't happen. So just a huge shout out to them.
Now, before I let you go, I always like to leave with a little bit of fun. So we're going to go through some rapid fire style questions. Fair warning, some of these are a little strange, maybe not conventional. Some aren't really necessarily even skiing related. But I want you just to answer as quickly as you can, and we'll kind of just go through these quickly. So what is the best ski day breakfast?
Coffee, and then some eggs.
What is the best sport outside of skiing or snowboarding?
Mountain biking.
If all animals could ski, which animal would be the best at skiing?
I mean, I'd kind of like to see a beaver ski.
A beaver?
Sure.
You think like the tail would be like a stabilizing point?
Yeah.
You think so? Like a 3 points of stabilization?
I think so. It'd be very stable.
Is that the Canadian you coming out? Is that?
Yeah, I think so.
What's your go-to opera drink?
Yeah, I'll go any good Pilsner.
Which Midwest state has the best state fair? Have you been to any of the state fairs here?
Yeah. I gotta go Minnesota.
Oh, that's the right answer. There is only one answer to that. Nothing beats the Minnesota State Fair. The big jar of cookies, Sweet Martha's, you got to get them. Powder days or groomers?
I mean, I grew up on groomers, but I gotta go POW.
Old fashions with whiskey or brandy?
Oh, whiskey for sure.
Oh,
Although I will say, a really good friend of mine's father will contend that an old fashioned is really just a Manhattan unless you're from Wisconsin. So then they're very different.
Yes, Wisconsin is it's a very special place. Are you a Blaine's Farm and Fleet guy or a Mills Fleet Farm guy?
I don't have a good perspective. I'll probably go Mills Fleet Farm.
There's not a wrong answer to that one. They're both like almost the same. But let's talk tractors. I mean, we love our tractors in the Midwest. Are you a John Deere guy or a Case guy? You red or green?
Deere.
Yeah. All right, one of my favorite topics: high-speed chairs or fixed grips?
Okay, so the best, one of my favorite chairlifts ever, and this is a Whistler Blackcomb story, was the old fixed grip Crystal. So fixed grip.
I love it, man. I don't know. Maybe it's like the nostalgia, the time, memories. I'm getting old too, so maybe I just need the break. I don't know.
You need the rest. Yeah, absolutely.
Who is going to win this season's Midwest Race to Open? Last year was Andy Tower Hills on November 14th.
So we're all hearing about this triple dip in the La Nina. We'll see. I don't know what's going to happen in Midwest, but I'm going to call Afton. And I'm going to call it on. Yeah. I'm going to call Afton, and I'm going to call November 15th.
Tim, thank you so much for taking the time. This has been an absolute pleasure talking with you, chatting with you, and kind of going through obviously some of the challenges, but also some of the cool things that are coming to Vail's Midwestern Resorts.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Like I said, great to see you. Good questions, by the way. And really good to catch up.
I want to give a huge thank you to Tim Harris for taking some time out of his day to chat with me. If you want to learn more about any of Vail's 10 Midwestern resorts or their products, I'll be sure to drop some links below. But until next time, I hope all of you have a great week. Pray for snow, and I'll see you guys out there.